The next 20 years are all about simplifying complexity, not renting better boxes or more of them.
A lot of hotel operators feel but don't say out loud. They carry all the blame, but when the AV fails, they don't control the technology.
This isn't criticism about the AV industry. It's an evolutionary conversation.
So why are we still buying meetings the way we did 30 years ago? Are you paying for equipment or investing in outcomes?
Every industry has a moment when it has to confront its own outdated systems. Welcome to Full Resolution. For years, Hospitality AV has operated on a model built around rentals, line items, and complexity. We helped build that system, and now we're here to challenge it. There's a clearer, smarter approach rooted in ownership, operational efficiency, and real revenue growth. Join us, and let's get this movement started.
Welcome to Full Resolution. I'm Chirag Patel.
And I'm Martin Kwitschau. We've spent decades inside the hospitality and specifically the audiovisual industry. We've built companies and ran operations and designed systems.
Meetings have changed. Technology's changed. The operating model has not, though.
And this show is all about what's working, what's broken, and how the next era gets built. Chirag, you've been on the hotel side for a long time. When you look at a meeting room today versus 20 years ago, what's the single biggest difference that you see?
Nothing. I got married over 20 years ago. I remember it like it was yesterday. It was in a big ballroom, projector screens, speakers on sticks. If you've ever been to an Indian wedding, they all look the same, which is why I hate going to them. But nothing's changed. If I go to a wedding today, they set up the room the exact same way with the boring projector, speakers on sticks. Unfortunately, the person sitting closer to those speakers is going to have a headache. Martin, when you first started in this industry, what did a meeting actually look like? Because people coming into the hospitality industry today probably imagine LED walls, streaming platform, but that's not what the case is.
Well, more decades than I care to remember, Chirag. I remember the handout materials, the photocopies that the presenter passed out to the audience. And the support then were slide projectors and overhead projectors with markers, flip charts. All of those things were revolutionary at that time. And it got rolled in on carts from the storage area, placed in the room with cables taped down. Hotels really didn't want to be in the AV business. They didn't want to own it. They didn't want to own the equipment. And so hence, the rental model was born. That rental model then, of course, evolved and grew into exclusive contracts with hotels, standardized pricing, and on-site providers.
At what point did that scrappy rental model stop feeling like a solution and start feeling like a ceiling?
It's funny that you ask that, actually, because I still remember two specific conversations that I had with meeting organizers. The first one needed a second flip chart in a breakout room. And when it was told to them that it would be $145 a day, their reaction was, I didn't want to buy it. I just wanted to rent it. That was example one. And example two is the same, a bit more onerous, if I think about it, where an organizer described to me that they would fly in one day early ahead of the meeting, go to Best Buy, buy a television, do their 3 days of presentation on it, and throw it in the dumpster at the back of the hotel on their way back to the airport after the meeting. And the end result for the organizer was that was a lot more cost effective than renting from the audiovisual company one line item at a time. Chirag, let's step outside the industry for a moment, maybe to help our viewers to draw a comparison to another industry. When you look at how broadcast media evolved, radio, that's a long time ago, to TV, to what we watch today, such media such as YouTube, what do you think that tells us about the evolution of that and the distribution?
I'm sure the people who started radio thought that they were going to own that space forever. And I'm sure TV thought that next because it completely changed the way people consume media. And then YouTube has turned it on its head. I used to be the remote control for my dad. Because I started watching TV before the remote controls, and now you can bust out YouTube anywhere, everywhere, iPad, computer, cell phone. As the media changed, so did the way that we consume it, not just the medium in which it's delivered.
So would you say that AV, to draw a comparison, improved the equipment but never changed the rules?
Yeah, the equipment is far beyond what it used to be. Everything is network enabled. You have digital signals, but in the hotel industry specifically, nobody has applied these new concepts to evolve the model. So when you were at PSAV, which eventually became the largest AV company in the world, did you see this coming? Or is this something you only recognize once you step back?
Well, stepping back is always a sobering position to be in. There was a blockbuster moment, not to be intentional with using that word, but when you look back at the Netflix and blockbuster story, which we'll review a little bit later in the episode, that was the moment that I said, wow, here is the giant blockbuster with thousands of stores located across the United States. And Netflix essentially, over time, came in and disrupted that model in a way. Netflix didn't build better video rental stores. They changed the model completely and turned it upside down. And that's when I had that moment that I felt that the audiovisual industry was headed in that same direction when I stepped back and looked at what was happening to Netflix and Blockbuster.
Well, let's talk about what planners actually experience. Not industry history, but the moment they open a proposal, what are they feeling?
Planners have described it to me as just purely feeling nickeled and dimed. And that's structural. That's not a personal observation. 20-page proposals and a week defending those line items is part of the planning process the way it is practiced and exists today. And for some reason, we're selling parts when actually the buyer wants to buy outcomes. Production becomes a negotiation, really, instead of a partnership. So, Chirag, from where you sit, have you ever seen a planner actually read a full AV proposal?
No, they always go all the way to the bottom, straight to the price. And I think that they would actually read the proposal if there was a little bit more substance behind it as to, as you said, outcomes. What is the outcome going to be? Maybe a video. I think part of the proposal should be, if you're able to, but it's not today because of the way the nature of how it is done, that there should be some visuals on what the outcome is going to be and what the audience is going to experience, not the model number of the tripods that the speakers sit on that is irrelevant. It has inconsequential to that person at all. So no, the answer is no. And beyond that, anytime I send out proposals for any other kind of work that we do, we take a lot of time to put together a proper narrative so that the end user or your audience understands what they're getting.
So, that 20-page proposal really is creating friction when the customer really wants it simplified. Is that what you're pointing out here?
Absolutely, because it turns into a back and forth, as you stated before, of what is this part? What does this mean? Why can't I do it without this? I just feel that it's unnecessary. It's like buying a car. They don't give you the model number of the exact lug nut that's holding your tire together. We don't need that. So, Martin, when you first said, what if we stop pricing equipment entirely? What was the reaction? Because that had to feel radical to people inside the industry.
Well, as you can imagine, no planner actually wakes up excited to rent microphones or screens. What does a planner actually want? That they want the message from the podium to land with the audience, be retained, not be somehow buried in line items that they have to evaluate by model number or part number. Technology somehow became a product by accident when actually in the infrastructure, it should become invisible. So we asked a new question. How many people are in the room? We thought that the room should realistically scale, and so should the AV budget by the number of people it's servicing. So if there's 50 people in a room, it's one price. If there's 500 people in the room, it's another price. That then gets designed around the experience and removes the friction from the proposal. At the end of the day, when technology becomes invisible, I think that's when the meeting actually works.
I think a lot of hotel operators feel but don't say out loud. They carry all the blame, but when the AV fails, they don't control the technology. How did that disconnect become the norm?
Well, in the current model, the vendor owns the gear and the hotel gets its 40 or 50%, whatever the deal happens to be. That made sense when hotels didn't have to invest. Now meetings are among the most valuable revenue in the building. The hotel carries every reputational risk when the AB fails, but it doesn't control the technology. In the new model we're contemplating at full resolution, the hotel owns the platform, keeps all of the revenue, and delivers the experience to the guests. They seamlessly own it from end to end. That stops this whole model from being a concession and becomes an asset that evolves with the property. So, Chirag, if a hotel GM is listening right now, what's the question they should be asking their current AV provider that they probably aren't asking?
Well, that's easy. Why is this so darn complicated? And if I pull some layers back from that, why does it take so long to set it up? Why does it take so long to tear it down? Why is it so ugly when it's set up with wires taped down and drapes that my grandmother used to have? I mean, I could keep going on, but why is it so ugly and why is it so complicated?
I guess every industry hits a turning point where it needs to protect itself against the future. The next 20 years are all about simplifying complexity, not renting better boxes or more of them. This isn't criticism about the AV industry. It's an evolutionary conversation. I built the system. I respect the people. The model still, in the end, needs to change.
From the story you told about Netflix versus Blockbuster. Blockbuster dominated home video for decades. Every town had one. They controlled the shelf, the late fees, the entire experience. Then Netflix started in 1997 mailing DVDs. Blockbuster laughed. In 2000, Netflix offered to sell for $50 million and Blockbuster said, no thanks, and they passed. Netflix didn't build a better video store, Martin. They just asked a different question. What if you'd never had to leave your couch? Streaming changed everything. And so by 2010, Blockbuster filed for bankruptcy. Netflix had 20 million subscribers. The model, not the product, was the weapon. These are numbers from 2010, 16 years ago. Today, those subscriber numbers are in the high hundreds of millions, if not in the billion.
So Blockbuster kept opening better stores. However, Netflix changed where the store was. That's kind of the crossroads where we see the AV industry today.
So Martin, you helped build the largest AV company in the world. And now you're saying the model needs to be replaced. That's a hard thing to say publicly. Why say it?
Well, Chirag, as you know, I've had the opportunity to build several AV companies, each one better than the last, so much so that the first company bought the second company and is now the largest, as you indicated. When I saw the reality across many industries that suffered the same fate as Blockbuster at the hand of Netflix, I had the realization that the AV industry had not evolved over decades. The business model of renting one item at a time, even if it was portrayed as a package, just does not make sense anymore. The meetings business is about people coming together face to face to share ideas and to make decisions. Those human moments should no longer be manifested in a price list. The focus should be on the outcome. For organizers, the new model represents simplicity. For hotel operators, it represents a new revenue model and a significant competitive advantage. The industry needs evolution before the Netflix Blockbuster story becomes the reality.
So why are we still buying meetings the way we did 30 years ago? Are you paying for equipment or investing in outcomes? The future of AV is not rental. It's responsibility for the experience, the message, the room. So if you enjoyed this episode, share it with someone in hospitality.
Because this shift is happening now.
Follow, subscribe, and stay part of the conversation.
And if you want to learn more about what we're building, visit us at amsyshospitality.com.
Thanks for listening to Full Resolution, and we'll see you on the next episode.